Hey mediums, Reynolds here. Today I want to talk to you about ethics and mediumship. I'm going to cover word choice, suicide, abuse, because it happens, emotionally unstable recipients, psychic readings, as well as age-appropriate recipients. And I'm also going to cover having references and cards. So lots of takeaways in this video, guys. Stay with me. All right, let's start first with just talking about word choice. Because, guys, words matter. You know, the spirit world gives us images, thoughts, feelings, sensations, and it's up to us to move into whatever evidence they're giving us and decide how we're going to wrap that piece of evidence up in a nice little package with a beautiful little bow to present to our recipient. We have to be mindful in how we give the information. So, for example, if you have somebody who has, let's say, somebody who died in war, and maybe they stepped on a bomb and it exploded. Well, we know that that's not going to be a pretty picture. But the spirit world might give you a gruesome picture to get the point across. This person died in war. But we don't want to give that gruesome picture to their loved one. That would be devastating. So we have to take that information that the spirit world has given us, move into it to find out what the real story is behind it. But we have to present it truthfully, but in a way that the recipients, the loved ones, can understand it and it doesn't devastate them. So if I had a situation like that, I would say I have a young man or woman here, and I know that they would have passed in war zone. Do you understand that? Yeah. I don't have to give the gruesomeness. I don't have to. But I might then go into the spirit world and blend with this spirit communicator a little bit more to find out about exactly how he passed, to reassure the family members. You know, was it instant? Did he feel the pain? Those sorts of things. And what I have learned through my time working with the spirit world and with my training as well is that in those kinds of situations, the soul leaves the body that instant right before the trauma impacts them, so that they feel nothing and they have no memory of it. And that's the kind of message we want to give their loved ones in that sort of a situation. We want to reassure them that they felt no pain if that's the case. So we have to be very mindful of the word choices that we use. So on the subject of word choice, let's talk about when we have somebody come who is responsible for taking their own life. We have a suicide situation. This is, again, we must be very careful with the choice of words that we use. For me personally, I will not blurt out that I know this person has taken their own life or is responsible for taking their own life. I allow that feeling, however it is that the spirit world is delivering that message to me. I allow it to come once and I let it pass. Allow it to come a second time and allow it to pass without saying anything. I just continue to give other pieces of evidence. If it comes back around a third time, then I know that this must be really important. And I might say something to them I know that your loved one played a part in his or her own passing. Do you understand that? And they're going to go, yes, we understand it. So you want to be very sensitive, not only to the spirit communicator, but also to their loved ones that are left behind. And I do believe that we as mediums have to be very mindful of what is happening on both sides of the veil, because you've got your spirit communicator and you have their loved ones left behind, and both are in pain. Both are struggling with, how do we deal with this now? It's happened. Now what? What are we going to do? How can we move beyond? How can we forgive? So the spirit communicator, oftentimes for suicide victims, or not victims, but for people who have chosen to take their own lives, they struggle a great deal in the spirit world. They have to relive this over and over as they begin to heal their own soul for what has occurred and all that led up to it. And they many times are afraid to come to their loved ones because it's facing the truth for them. So it's a struggle for your spirit communicator. But then on the flip side of it, you've got the loved ones that are left behind that have so many answers, and they're struggling to understand why. And so you have to be sensitive to that. You have to be compassionate about it, and you have to choose your words carefully about how you deliver the information that the spirit communicator is trying to give. And many times, especially if it's the first time they've come through, it's, I'm so sorry. And they don't always get into the whys. But as a medium, you might be able to feel into the spirit communicator's energy. And you might be able to understand that there was depression at the end, or that there was something going on in his life or her life that you can reveal to the recipient. But just make sure it's just what you're feeling about them. So choose your words very, very carefully when dealing with these kinds of situations. Another one that I feel that we really have to be very sensitive, even more so sensitive to the recipient, is when you have a spirit communicator who comes through who is guilty of abuse in some fashion. A lot of times your recipient isn't ready to deal with this person. And so you have to be mindful of that and make sure, do a check with your recipient. I'm aware that this person in the spirit world was not always kind. I know that this person may have done some things that were very hurtful in a physical or an emotional way. Do you understand that? And watch your recipient, because they're going to give you body clues. But even if you're not sure, just do a quick check and just say, are you okay if I continue with this communicator, or would you like for me to move on? And let them make that decision, because at that point, it's all about your recipient. You don't want to trigger anything. You don't want to traumatize them in any way. And if they say, don't want to hear from this person, then you need to send that spirit communicator away. And what I do that in a gentle way as well. I say to the spirit communicator, in my mind, I send them my thoughts of, I'm so sorry, but your loved one is not ready to deal with you. There still needs to be some healing that needs to take place on earth before they're ready to speak with you. I'm going to ask you please to step back and allow someone else to come through. So you have to handle that with kid gloves. Also, if they want to hear from this communicator, then allow that communication to begin. But keep in mind that this is a perfect opportunity for you to bring healing from the spirit world and healing in this world as well. So keep that in mind. We don't have to go through all the gruesome stuff. That recipient and the communicator all too well remember the gruesome stuff. all we have to do is go from this point on. Let the communicator say he's sorry or she's sorry. Allow that to take place. Allow the communicator to speak about what they're doing in the spirit world to correct their behavior and to heal. Allow that to happen as long as the recipient is willing to allow that to happen. And then I always try to end, I don't dwell on the negative when we have these kinds of situations for abuse or for a suicide. I don't dwell on that. I allow the communicator to bring in happier times and memories of things that did well, that were wonderful, so that they can leave both this world and that, and the other side can leave on a positive note. So that's all just, ethic things about how you want to choose your words wisely. All right. So next thing I want to talk to you about is, what if you have a situation where you suddenly realize that your recipient may not be emotionally or mentally stable? This is another situation that becomes quite tricky. Now, for me, I always do a little disclaimer at the very beginning before I ever begin with a private reading, where I specifically say, if for any reason you feel that you are not stable emotionally or mentally, then we need to put this reading on hold. And I want a response back for them. And I know we don't want to say that to people, because 99.9% of the people are just fine and they're okay. But we'll always just put that in my little disclaimer so that they know. And then as a medium, you want to do a quick scan just to see if you pick up on anything before you begin, if you do have suspect. And then if you're in the middle of a reading and you suddenly become aware that this person is not stable, and it could be many reasons for being unstable. It could be mental unstable. It could be that they're under the influence of drugs of some sort, alcohol or other drugs. There could be many different things. It could just be that they're very depressed, and they need to get that kind of thing sorted before they are ready to hear from a loved one. So if it happens in the middle and I become aware of it, I stop the reading. I stop it. I don't charge for it because I've stopped it on my own. I don't ask them to pay for that reading. I just say, I know that you're going through a difficult time right now at the moment, and I just feel that now is not the right time for us to continue, and that you need to have some time before we do this. Word choice, very, very important here, because you don't want to offend them, you don't want to upset them, you just want to let them know that it's just not working. And you know what, I might even just say to them, I'm so sorry, this is all my fault, it's really not working for me right now at the moment, and I feel that you need a little extra time anyway, so we're just going to put this on hold, and maybe you can come back in a couple of months and we can try this again. I do it that way. Now, on the lines of all of that, whether you have someone a spirit communicator who has committed suicide, maybe you have a recipient who is suicidal, maybe you have a recipient who is under the influence. Perhaps your spirit communicator was under the influence a lot in life. Maybe the recipient is a survivor of abuse, a survivor of drug or alcohol abuse, anything like that. I think it's really good, especially if you work from an office or a place of business where your recipients come to you and it's not over the phone. I think it's always great to have references and resources for business cards of AA, emergency hotlines, shelters for women of abuse, um, counselors, any kind of help that can help somebody if they're in a difficult place. Bereavement, um, hotlines they can call for bereavement, maybe groups that they can join to help them with bereavement, people who suffer from PTSD, all of those kinds of things. I just think it's wise as mediums for us to have something that we can hand them, especially if we have to cut the reading short. Something that we can hand them, then say, hey, you know what, this might be something that can help you work through this difficult time that you're going through. So I'm going to leave this with you. So keep all of that in mind. But how we deal with all the things that come up on a regular basis is extremely important. We've covered a lot. There's one more thing I forgot that I wanted to talk to you about. I've had this happen where I've had somebody come in and they want a psychic reading, and then they hand me either an object of somebody that they know that is not present, and they want me to give a reading on that person. No, 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 no. Never ever do that. I don't do it. I don't think that's a wise thing to do. I know that when we give psychic readings, oftentimes the people in their lives will come through in those readings, and we can touch upon that. There's nothing wrong with that. But the main focus of your reading needs to be the person that's sitting in front of you. So please, please, please think that through very carefully if somebody wants you to psychically link into somebody who's not present. You do not have permission to invade their energetic space. So please be careful with that. And then the last thing, another question that comes up a lot is, what's an appropriate age to give a reading? For me personally, it's 18 or above. And I pretty much hold to that. I don't recommend giving readings to children or even to teenagers. I feel that developmentally they are not quite ready for it. You might, on a rare occasion, have a very mature teenager who has been going to spiritualist churches, has been around this sort of thing all their life. I might waive my decision in that kind of a situation, but general rule 18 or more. So guys, I hope you take the ethics part of mediumship serious, because it really is serious. And whatever you do, just remember your words matter. So choose your words carefully. All right. Hey, if you liked this reading, please if you liked this video, please hit the like button down below. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do that as well. And then I also have a I cannot talk today. It's early in the morning for me, guys. A Facebook group where I give free Zoom practice. I have a practice circle that I run once a week. It's free, costs you nothing. I do live feeds along with a friend of mine who lives abroad, and we do live feeds together. So if that's something you're interested in developing your own mediumship, please click on the link below and join my Facebook group. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening.